everybody. Happy Monday. I don't know how to use this. I feel like YouTube is always changing their live streaming tools, and so had a little tough time. Ooh, shit, shut down my mail. Get this together, Katie, come on. How are you guys doing? Happy Monday. I woke up extra early today because, oh, hey, Scotty and Joey and Keely. I woke up extra early today because we have new neighbors upstairs and they get up at 7, so that kind of woke me up. I was like, and I'm awake. Hey, Katie K, Ashley, Kate, Cody. Hey. How's everybody doing? What's going on? How are you guys handling things? I feel like it's been I don't know. It's just, I feel like we're in a constant state of flux here. Oh, hey, Chris. So what we're going to do, oh, hi, Pantalina, long time no chat. Caitlin, hey. Oh, Lord Voldemort. I like that name. That is fun. And Daisy Blue, hey, I'm recognizing all of your names. So what we're going to do is we'll just hang out and chat for about an hour, and I'll try to get through as many of your questions as I can. I know when we've live streamed in the past, I've had more questions than I can get through. So I'll just do as many as I can in an hour. So just keep an eye on that. Like if you're thinking of asking a question, just note the time. And if there's you've seen 10 come in front of you, just, be mindful of that, because I don't know how many I'll get through. So yeah, it's another week. I've been trying to just force my brain to be more positive lately, because it's just been such a shit show, Does anybody else feel that way? I'm like, don't go down the pit of despair. Don't listen to too much news. Oh, Rowan, I'm glad you're able to join. Yay. And Heidi too. It's your first time being live. Yay. I know I don't do these on here very often. Usually I do them I do 2 a month over on Patreon. And so that's usually where I live stream. So it's really good to see you guys and to get to hang out. And I've done some back at the beginning of quarantine, which feels like forever ago, and it's almost a year. I did them on Instagram a little bit too. So if you, want to hang out over there, you can as well. Oh, hey, Franny has a question. Can a person be addicted to unhappiness? It's not addicted. So something that I think it's important for us all to recognize, and this has been helpful for me, especially managing my anxiety because of COVID and just life right now, is that our brains are programmed to seek out threat, meaning our brain wants to assess our environment for threat at all times so it can ready us for fight or flight, right? And that's just how we survive. It makes sense, right? It's adaptive. Then we get away and we're okay. Therefore, we can find ourselves ruminating on bad things that are threatening to us, bad situations, bad feelings, things in our past that we wish we would have said something differently or done something differently. We can ruminate on that because in our brain is yeah, that's a threat. We should focus on it so we know how to deal with it. We should do that, And so we can do that over and over and over. And in a way, it can feel like we're addicted to being unhappy or addicted to those negative thoughts, but it's actually just us. We're going to have to pull our brain out of that threat, wanting to seek out that threat all the time, and pull it into something more positive. That's why it's really hard to think positively. And I hate when people are like, just think positive, just smile, just shower, you'll feel better. I'm like, you don't understand what's going on. So anyways, I think that I hope that helps explain it a little bit. That's kind of why we can feel like we're addicted to being unhappy. It's more we just can't help but think about it, and we don't have the tools or the assistance to help us pull ourselves out. Okay, Jake Colt has a question. Says, hello, Katie. What should I do to help me recover from unwanted, intrusive thoughts about religion and lots of love? About religion, lots of love. Lots of love to you too. When it comes to our intrusive thoughts, there are a couple things we need to do. I have a bunch of videos about intrusive thoughts and how to thought stop. So thought stopping is the first thing. And that's you can say stop out loud or in your head, and then pull your brain over into something else. Let's think about a favorite memory. The more emotional, the better. One of the most exciting times we had, or even just in your mind, recite telling me how to put something together. Let's say you're really good at, I don't know, working on computers, or working on my father-in-law loves car engines and building those and taking them apart and all kinds of stuff. Tell me how you'd put that together and take it apart. Or, tell me some details, going through essentially what we're doing is we're pulling our brain away from those intrusive thoughts and the worry and the stress and the embarrassment that can come along with them. And we're pulling them over into a more happy, healthy, just different place, right? We're kind of distracting, like pulling it away from that. So that's something that we can do. Also seeing a professional and getting a better understanding about your anxiety and maybe some things you can do to best manage that. That can help as well. And then distractions are just great. If you find yourself like, if even what I'm talking about, you're like, that's not working, that's not helping. It can also just help just go do something, move your body, get out, talk to a friend, watch a TV show that's like engrossing because you're like, oh my God, like that's why I think I love crime shows. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming or whatever. Those are some things that you can do that way. Yeah, any of those hopefully will help, but seeing a professional to get your anxiety like better managed will really, sorry guys, I did realize my my little thing wasn't plugged in. So that will help, you know, essentially stop those running intrusive icky thoughts that we all hate. Okay, Alyssa has a question. Hey, what would you recommend someone do for therapy if the online platforms have denied them? Oh, I'm sorry. That's one of my biggest frustrations with things like Talkspace and BetterHelp is that if you say at all that you have any suicidal thoughts, which a lot of people have them, and I understand their side, but I understand our side as well, is like they're worried about not being able to assist you and you having a difficult time and not being able to get you the help that you need because they're not in person. So, so I get that part, but then the other part is that we need help and we need it more now than ever. And if you say anything on any of those little quizzes they tell you about suicide, like, yes, I've had thoughts before, they won't pair you with someone, they'll deny you. There are great free support groups. There's a website called Hope for Recovery. It's just hope and then the number 4 recovery.org, I think. They're a nonprofit. I've donated time to them. They have therapists donate time and run groups for trauma, eating disorders, binge eating, all sorts of things. Really, really great. I think they even have some anxiety groups and all sorts of stuff, addiction. That's a great resource. And then, you know, other than that, really, the next thing is reaching out to a therapist in your area, even if it's over Zoom. So it's essentially just like the online therapy stuff. Even if it is over Zoom, we can still get that help and get that support when we need it most. And you can go through your insurance company or you can ask some friends so you can get some referrals. And if money's an issue, you can always ask them if they work on a sliding scale because everybody does. Okay. Leah says, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. That's a really cool way to spell it. Says, hi, thanks so much for all you do. I'm having a bad day and just feel that I'm getting lower. Everything coming up seems impossible to manage. I think a lot of us can relate to that it's just been a lot. And that's kind of what we could even go back to what I was talking about intrusive thoughts and like distracting, thinking about something else, forcing our brain into a different direction. But one thing that there's actually 2 things I've been doing when I'm having really shit days and just feeling really down. And the first is standing up and doing a full body shake, like a dog out of the bath, like they shake from nose to tail. I want you to shake from nose to toe. It sounds weird, but what that does is when we've been feeling stressed, I think we'd all agree this year has been terrible. People are angry online, in the world. Things are just bad. And we've been put in fight, flight, freeze for almost a year now. And what that does to us, because our stress response readies us for action, but we have no outlet for that action because what do we do? What action do we take? It can feel like there's no action to take. The actions actually stay home. It doesn't work, right? So all that energy that our body ramps us up for has no outlet. And that shaking gets that energy out of our system. So it's not cycling and making us feel worse. So yeah, get up and shake out. Do it for I put on like a song. If you can do it for like a minute, awesome. Or just dance a little bit. Second thing, and something that someone on TikTok tagged me and was like, hey, this is really cool. And I tried it. I haven't read research, so I don't know. But I tried it. And what it is when we're super stressed, our tongue sticks up to the top of our mouth. And we tend to clench our teeth. And so all of that actually, what this woman says is true. Again, have not checked the research. This was just like last week. And I was like, I'm going to try this out and see if it works. She says that our tongue is kind of part of that reptilian brain, meaning like when they talk about reptilian brain, it's like our unconscious brain that it does things automatically. Like when we see something scary, we run away, right? Our brain just does it for us. We don't have to think about it. And reptilian brain is like the bare bones, basic survival brain. And it says that our reptilian brain taps into our tongue and the micro movements that it makes. Not only does our nervous system tell it what to do, like, oh, I'm stressed, stick it up to the top of my mouth, but it also tells it to, to relax if we're relaxed. And then our tongue sends messages back. I know this sounds really woo-woo. Just hang in there with me. So her advice is when we're feeling really stressed to relax our tongue off the top of our mouth and just kind of let it hang in your mouth. And that soothes your system too, just like the shaking. And I'm not going to lie, I've been doing it and it's helping. So I'm putting that out there. If you find yourself just feeling shit and down and out, try to move your body, go for a walk, shake it out, talk to a friend. Connection is really important too. And then if all else fails, just focus on those basic needs. Have you eaten recently? Have you drank any water? Have you showered? Let's focus on those things. It'll get better. And our community is here to support. I have a Facebook group too, if you're just needing somebody to talk to. Okay. We already have so many questions. Holy schmamolies. Okay. Nawaf's question is, hey, Kati, how can you tell if it's anxiety, attachment, or just sexual attraction or attachment to a friend? Thanks. Love your work. Oh, of course. Thank you. I guess, so anxious attachment is when it's usually something we use to describe our attachment when we're a child. So if you guys don't know, I have videos about attachment. Just search on YouTube, Kati Morton attachment. There's 4 basic styles of attachment that are, everything from secure to anxious avoidant to disorganized. And anxious attachment is usually when we don't really feel safe in our environment. Like we don't have secure attachments. We don't feel like we can go out and do things. So we don't really trust that someone's going to be there for us all the time. So we can like cling to them and push them away off and on. And this is something that a lot of my borderline patients, my patients with borderline personality disorder struggle with a lot. And so if you find yourself push-pulling Nawaf, that's an indicator that it's more to do with attachment. Or if you find yourself really liking someone and wanting to spend time with them and you just like, you want to hug them, you want to kiss them, you want to, that's sexual attraction. So the difference would be if we feel that push-pull, that's more mental health driven, where there's something going on where we like, there's one slight, they don't text us back quickly enough and we like burn it down. That's more of that anxious attachment. But if we just like someone and we're like, oh, I wish they'd get back to me, and you keep thinking about them, that's like normal. That's like just having a crush. That's regular stuff. So, yeah, I hope that helps tease that out. Okay, now I've got to try to find where I'm at here in my, okay, sorry guys, trying to make my way. I think I'm losing them. Do they like go away after a certain amount of time? I'm going to scroll back. Okay, because we've got all of these here. Let's go to this one. Sorsha says, and sorry you guys if I'm missing your question, somebody just ping me. Sorsha, yeah, they just disappear. What? Okay, I'm going to get out of it this way. I'm just going to scroll through the chat. Okay. Oh, what is happening? Slow mode is on. What is that? Sorry, guys. Hey, we're learning together. And that's Jasmine, Lewis. How do we go? There's Sorsha. Okay, Sammy. Okay, here we go. I'm all caught up. Natalie, do you have any advice as to how to cope with termination with a therapist that wasn't planned and never had time to prepare for it? Honestly, Natalie, the best thing you can do, first of all, I'm really sorry this happened. This isn't supposed to happen. We're supposed to give patients time to, ideally, like I'm filming a video soon, so stay tuned about termination and how it should look. So at least we kind of know what to expect and what it should be. And then I'll do one about like it gone wrong so we can process that. But when we don't have time to deal with it or process it and it's just terminated, we have to allow ourselves to grieve, be sad, cry about it, talk about it, journal about it, just let ourselves feel it. And then something I do encourage you to do is go back in your journal, if you kept a journal, or even just thinking about it, like where you were at when you first started therapy, and recognize all that you've done. So often we're like, oh, I don't feel 100% better yet, so I didn't do well in therapy. This is terrible. Ugh. And so it can make it really hard for us to see the progress we've made. We can be like, have our blinders on because we're not fully fixed. whatever that means, right? But I'd encourage you to think back, and so you can appreciate all the hard work and how much better you're doing. And yeah, and then just, going through the stuff you worked on in therapy, processing the grief and the things that you'll miss. And please don't let this one bad experience solely make you not want to try therapy anymore, because it could still be super beneficial and there's a good fit for you out there, and someone who's ethical and won't just terminate therapy without any time for you to prepare. So please don't be scared to reach out again. Okay, Sammy says, what do you think about exposure therapy? I failed at it the first time 3 years ago. I'm starting it again now. I actually think exposure therapy is way more beneficial than we give it credit. I have a book coming out this September called Traumatized, where I was researching everything related to trauma. And what I really found is that we've all pretty much, especially this last year, experienced some trauma, and exposure therapy is truly one of the best ways to deal with it. So finding someone who specializes and does trauma therapy like most of their time, I think will be really great for you. And just being patient with yourself. The main component of exposure therapy are the resources. So the resources are coping skills or ways that you can best manage, all that's going on for you. Like whether that is journaling, whether that's talking to a friend, whatever that is. So I know Keely caught me using the R word there, resources. But really it's just ways to soothe your system. And so building those up is actually the most important thing when it comes to exposure therapy. So take your time building those before we start doing the actual exposures. Okay, Sorsha, I don't know if I'm saying that right or wrong. You guys, if you know me from other live streams, I almost always mispronounce your names, and I apologize. It says, hi, Kati, any tips for taking care of yourself when doing very tough trauma therapy for complex PTSD? Manage that self-talk. That's the first thing, because it's hard. It's hard work, and your work, take it from me. I know you're working really fucking hard and you're exhausted and it's overwhelming. You're doing the best you can. We're talking to ourselves in that nice way, being at least as understanding and compassionate as we can. And then knowing that it's also okay to just lay down, have a nap, not do anything. Sometimes the best way to take care of ourselves is to do nothing at all. And that's completely okay. But depending on what you need, coming up with some things that you think could help you recover, could help you feel more, I don't know if it's taken care of or more soothed, that's all good. And maybe that means you reach out to a friend. Maybe that means that you watch some of your favorite shows and just lounge. Maybe it means you take a warm bath. Maybe, I don't know. Just making time for that will be really important. Making time for that self-care, even if it's doing nothing, is really, really important. And yeah, also that's that Hope for Recovery website. They have a lot of trauma groups. I think groups are super healing. I've heard from my audience over and over again that the biggest thing when it comes to trauma is thinking we've overreacted, thinking we've made it up or made it into more than it is, and people don't understand what we're going through. And I think those groups can be really healing that way. Okay, let's see. Okay, Lewis says, I experience weird and taboo situations and I'm scared to see any counseling because it can it be a limit to confidentiality? Not necessarily. Should I mask some issues? I rely on Crisis Text Line because that's my safe place. Yes, I love Crisis Text Line. Can't say enough about them. That I know they're not for everybody, but it's just a great resource to have. And I know Samaritans, I know Bethany had told me, another member of our community had told me a while ago, I think they have a text line now, but at the very least, I know Samaritans in the UK and they have online chat. But Lewis, let me just explain to you what the limits to confidentiality are. So then we can, then you can decide whether these taboo situations fall into that or not. So the limits to confidentiality, if you're over 18, okay, are when it comes to child abuse, elder abuse, or dependent adult abuse. And dependent adult means, let's say, because I'm 37, let's say that I still live with my mom because of some either physical or mental disability that I struggle with, and she takes care of me. I'm dependent on her. So I'm a dependent adult. I'm still a protected class then. So children, elders, and dependent adult, if there's any abuse going on, I'm a mandated reporter. So that I'd have to break confidentiality and report that abuse. Okay. So there's that. Then the next is that if I think you're a danger to yourself or someone else, and I won't get into like the tear us off and all the different, there's case law to support these things. And if you really want to do a deep dive, you can totally do it. But if I think you're a threat to yourself or someone else, and that means not all therapists do this, but we should, is you check to see if there are means, like, can I hurt someone or myself? Do I have the means to do it? Do I have a plan? Is the threat imminent? All of that stuff. Then I'd have to break confidentiality. And other than that, and then there's some stuff with like domestic violence because of child abuse and stuff like that, that you might have to report it. But that's pretty much it. And then obviously if someone called me into court and I get a court order, I'm forced and I'm like compelled to testify. And then there's always, and this is not that this will apply to any of you, but because of 9/11, there have been changes to law. So if someone comes in and just says Patriot Act and wants your files, then I'm forced to give them to them, which is like, the Patriot Act is great, but it also like really infringes on our privacy rights. So it kind of bothers me as a clinician. Not that I've had that happen, but I've had other people tell me they've had it happen. So that's really it. So Lewis, hopefully that answers your question. Consensual things between two adults, fine. If you think it's like weird, relationships, weird sex stuff, we've heard it all. That's okay. There's no reason, not to, oh, what happened there? That's weird. I'm going to unpin that message of my merchandise. It's in my way. Okay. Okay. So now moving into Daisy Blue's question. It says, hey, Kati, do you have any advice for when a person has been dismissed by a doctor when reaching out for help in dealing with anxiety of trying again? I know, I'm so sorry. Honestly, I'm just going to tell it to you like personally as a person to person. Doctors, medical doctors, MDs, like psychiatrists or GPs or general practitioner doctors, and this actually is a clinician too, because whenever I try to call them, I have a select few in the entire city of Los Angeles that I work with, because doctors don't get it. A lot of times they don't even try to, and they see us for like 3 minutes and then they're like, okay, well, it looks like everything's together. And I'm like, I forgot the thing I wanted to ask. Oh, okay, bye. It's like, it's horrible. Their bedside, they call it bedside manner, like how well you interact with people. They have like none of it a lot of times. And we could get into the whys, but that's not important. So what I'm just bringing that up, Daisy, because I want you to know that some of them are trash. And if you can tell yourself that and understand that, like, just like we could go get a haircut and they don't do a good job and everything's crooked, or they give us weird bangs or something. It's the same as therapists and doctors. Like, not everybody's good at their jobs. And I know it's hard and then we have to start over, like the anxiety of trying again, like, I get it, but I'm just telling you to like validate that it's not you, it's them. They're bad at their jobs. They didn't understand how to help you, and that's their fault. And I'm sorry that you went through that. But when it comes to trying again, I would just encourage you to find ways to soothe your system. Back to those resources. What are things that make you feel good? Is it having a close friend with you? Is it being in cozy clothes under a warm blanket? Or could we ask for some help? Like, resources can be help too. Can we ask a friend to make some calls for us, or a parent, someone who's supportive? Can we get them to help us out, go with us, make the call, things like that? I know with COVID, going with people makes it a little tricky, but which is so I can't, that's one of my biggest frustrations. My patients I want them to go get their OB checkup, the OBGYN and physicals. And usually I'd have them bring a supportive person, but now they're like, they won't allow it. It's frustrating to me. But yeah, building up those resources, checking your self-talk, like meaning check your facts. Don't allow the anxiety talk or the thought to become like a belief, because you're like, well, yeah, then they wouldn't see me. And no, I'm going to check the facts. And so I'm okay. I'm scrolling through.
Okay, because I found how you can see them on the back end.
Oh, okay. Maybe afterwards, let me know if I have trouble. Thanks, honey.
The tab that says activity. I think it loads.
I don't have that, but okay. Sean's trying to help me with the questions. So that's really my advice, Daisy, is like, know that doctors can be shit. Everybody can be shit. Not everybody's good at their jobs. It's unfortunate, but you have every right to get help. Managing that self-talk, checking those facts, and building up some of those resources to help calm you down. Okay, Jessica's question. My therapist and I are going to start working on my PTSD, and I'm really scared. Is there a way not to feel so scared? It's always scary. I wish I had a better I wish I had a better answer for you. Because the truth is that the idea of working on a trauma and talking to someone about something we've never maybe shared with anybody else, of course we're going to be scared. It's okay to feel scared. It's okay to talk about that. My real advice would be to tell your therapist you're scared about it and talk to them about it. And because what they're going to do is they're going to assure you that they're not going to go faster than you're comfortable going. They're not going to force you to talk about things that you're not ready to talk about. It's all about you pacing it and you feeling okay at the pace that you can go at. And so, yeah, bring it up. Know that everybody feels that way. Working on traumas fucking sucks and it's uncomfortable and it's terrifying and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean that we don't deserve the help, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't get easier, because it totally does. I find those first few sessions are the scariest when it comes to like, oh my God, am I doing this? Am I doing this? Am I doing this? But then after that, the talking about it can get more like normal. I don't want to say easier because it can still be difficult to put words to how things that have happened, but it can be more normalized for us, and we won't have as much anxiety or worry or fear leading up to a session. And then we start to feel better slowly but surely. So stick with it. It does get better. And I'm sorry. Also, if it's, if any of you, there's a few books that I love and utilize a lot. And one of those, when it comes to like childhood sexual abuse, if any of you have endured childhood sexual abuse, the Courage to Heal workbook, I highly recommend. Okay, Jasmine says, I just left my narcissist boyfriend after 6 years. 5 gold stars, amazing. So exhausted. Do you have any advice? I'm so worn down. Get in to see a therapist. You've been gaslit and manipulated for years. I'm so sorry this happened to you. But yeah, the toll that narcissism, like being in a narcissistic relationship, takes on our confidence and our, I don't know, it's just something about like our self-worth, I guess, that it's so damaging that we need to slowly work on building that up. And I have a video I put out a couple weeks ago about how to build your self-confidence, or I think it's like stop feeling bad about yourself or something like that. I forget what I named it, but there are a lot of tools and things we can do, like getting good at like one thing right now, like whether that's like organizing your house or playing guitar or putting together musical lists or, I don't know, knitting. If you want to try to build mastery and get good at something, we find that really makes us feel good. And then I would really encourage you to send a text once a week to a friend that maybe you've lost touch with, because we all know those narcissistic partners cut everybody else out of our lives. So let's try to start reconnecting little by little. And know that we're here for you. We have the Facebook group called Kati. I jump over there and, get some support that way too. Okay, I'm not going to try to say this name, or maybe I should. Cicernico? Not good. Bad. Sorry. Nowadays, I get overwhelmed by other people's problems around me. Ooh, highly sensitive person right there. I do a therapist role. I appreciate that they trust me, but I'm ignoring my own feelings. I feel I want to go away for a few weeks. Of course, you're overwhelmed. I would watch some of my videos about boundaries, because that's what we need to practice. Also, I have a video about a highly sensitive person. I would probably look that up as well, because I think there's something to that there. Because yeah, boundaries are okay. It's okay to, we might have to say it to ourselves, like their problems aren't my problems, or, even just verbalizing them. That must be really hard for you. I'm so sorry. Like, it's their issue. It's not ours. And I think the more we can understand why we're taking that on, and even just be curious and maybe journal a little bit about like, why is it that I feel either responsible for other people's feelings or feel things so intensely? That's why that highly sensitive person video, I would check that out. And then what are some ways that I can put boundaries in place that feel good for me? And it's going to feel uncomfortable at first, because you're going to be like, I'm being so insensitive and I'm not, I'm not there for them in the way that I should be, or whatever. You are responsible for you and they're responsible for them. And when we have some extra, right, when we feel good, then we can help support each other. Otherwise, it's like pouring from an empty pitcher, right? No water is going to come out. There's no support to give. And yeah, hopefully some of those video ideas and just topics will help you find your way. Hey, Kimberly, welcome to the weekly journal prompts. So you guys, I offer journal prompts through YouTube memberships twice a week on Tuesdays and Fridays around noon Pacific Standard Time. I do them like on my phone, like in the moment. So sometimes it's noon, sometimes it's 1, sometimes like 2 o'clock. I'm like, shit, I forgot to put it out. But I offer some journal prompts. Sometimes they're serious. Sometimes they're just fun, like creative writing stuff, just to get us writing things out and journaling. And I also just launched the emo jams, which are like animated GIFs, and they're super fun. So welcome, Kimberly. Okay. O Moore says, my therapist is telling my dad what I say. Please help. Ooh, are you under 18? You have rights as well. The best thing to do, if you can, practice saying this, maybe if you feel nervous, but you need to tell your therapist you're not okay with this and that it's making things hard for you at home. As a therapist, when people are under 18, when we see kids, the patient always holds the confidentiality, meaning whatever you say in therapy, you get to decide who else gets to hear it. But there are limitations when we're under 18. That's why when I was answering that question before about confidentiality, I was saying when we're over 18, when you're an adult, when we're under 18, my law and ethics professor used to say that it was drugs, sex, and rock and roll, meaning you should tell parents only when there are things happening in a child's life that could harm them in some way. They're engaging in dangerous activity like drugs, alcohol, unprotected sex, things like that. So tell your therapist you're not comfortable with what's being told and ask them to let you know what they're going to share with your parents before they do it. That's what I do with my patients. I don't know why not every therapist does this, because everybody wants to know what's being talked about, or if they're going to say stuff to your dad, they should say it in session at the end. Like, I don't see a ton of kids. I see mainly adults in my private practice, but when I have seen teenagers, I always have their parents come in with them at the end for like 5 minutes. So there's no surprises there because you already know. And I'm sorry that's happening. Okay, Rosanna's question says, how do I get over feeling needy? My friend hurt my feelings, responded to my audio clip through email, but didn't my second response. I double texted. Got you. Feeling needy is interesting because I think we've given the word, the phrase or the word, I guess, of like needy or attention. We've put like bad connotations to these words when it's actually just human. It's just the human condition. We all need people. We need connection. We need relationships. And so I'd encourage you just to change the way that you allow yourself to think and talk about needing people, because we all do. And then when it comes to feeling needy, I guess in some ways I would encourage you to figure out what it is that you're needing from other people and find some ways to give it yourself. Now, I know people are like, well, it's not as good if I give it to myself. It is good. It is helpful. I want all of us to feel very content by ourselves, being our own company. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't make time for connection and relationships, but I think the more we build that confidence and that self-understanding, the less we'll look to other people to fill the void and to help us understand ourselves. Does that make sense? It's like taking the time to kind of get to know ourselves on a deeper level will really help with that. And to be truthful, Rosanna, I would encourage you to see a therapist if you can. Get on a list if you have like a wait list. Or if you can get it through insurance, if you have private insurance, then you can do it that way too. But it could come from attachment. It could come from symptoms of borderline personality disorder. It could come from a lot of different places. Even my patients who are depressed or anxious can sometimes find themselves feeling very needy of others. And just being curious about it, I think, will give us more information, like journaling about it. When you feel at your worst, when the neediness comes up the most. Is it that we fear being abandoned? Is it that we just, we like to process things out with other people? A lot of us are like that, where we have to talk things out. What is it? Let's write about it. Let's be curious about it. And let's not be judgmental. So as we're being curious and as you're writing about it, what are we learning? What's interesting to us? Think of it more like a detective rather than, our personal exploration. Like sometimes it can just be more helpful to look at it like without emotion as much as possible, so we can learn more about it. And so, yeah, doing some tools to self-soothe, those resources I've been talking about, like helping ourselves feel better, that can assuage some of those feelings of being needy. And then finding ways to do the things that help you feel soothed. Like, again, it's kind of like extra resources. Okay, John Ellis says, what if I have trust issues with my mental health providers? That's very normal. It's a weird thing to go in and talk to a stranger about all your private things, right? Like anything you've never told people things before and you show up, talk to a stranger. It's like, ugh. So my best advice is talk about it. Talk about the fact that you don't trust them and that it makes you really uncomfortable. It's okay. We're used to hearing it. Like I said, it's a very strange relationship. It's a very strange thing that we do in therapy. And allow it time, that time in therapy and that relationship to build and slowly build trust. Trust takes time to build. We can't manufacture it overnight, even though that would be wonderful. It's okay. It's very normal. So hang in there. It will get better. But just talk about it because it might be interesting to learn. I'm always like curious, like where did that come from? And what is it about therapy or people? Maybe there might be patterns of certain people that we don't trust or that we struggle with trust and stuff like that. So be curious about it. Katie LaRose, thank you. Let's keep it up. I love those little gifts. They're just too cute. Fun emojis. Okay, let's see. Are we all caught up? We can't be. Oh, Jessica, welcome to Weekly Journal Prompts. Okay, let me go back up here. What, are you going to help me?
Yeah.
I don't see a tab.
It's okay.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties.
So if you go open a new tab.
Or is it here, maybe?
Open a new tab.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Hold.
And go into the YouTube studio.
Okay. Is it going to start playing it again? Or to go here?
YouTube studio.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I don't do this very often, so we're learning.
And now go to content on the left.
Mm-hmm.
Could they make it any tougher?
Could they put it in a deeper...
And then go to live.
A deeper place? Jesus Christ.
So now you're going to go into the cameraman view or whatever. You're here. Yeah. If you click on that thing.
View live. Wow, you guys.
Right?
Why is YouTube terrible?
Okay. So then when you're in here.
You guys, I'm just learning this. Sorry.
You can even... Your video is going to show up there. But...
I got to stop it, right?
Yeah, stop.
Okay, stop.
Click viewer activity.
Jesus fuck.
I know.
Okay.
And that'll show you. You can kind of.
Okay, here we go. Okay, you guys. Sorry. Shadow Man rescues the stream. Zachary says Shadow Man. Okay, Jessica. Okay. Hi, Winter Jim. Welcome to the Weekly Journal Prompts. Okay. It says, do you know any skills I can practice for self-victimizing? The truth about, wow, so I can't even see the stream, but I can see, this is so, YouTube sometimes so frustrating, you guys. I just can't. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this question about self-victimizing. It's tricky. The thing that we're going to, honestly, my biggest encouragement when it comes, if we find ourselves feeling like we're the victim all the time and people are always harming us and things are always so painful and why are people so hurtful? My video about highly sensitive person, as well as DBT. So dialectical behavior therapy could be crazily beneficial to you because there are a couple of things within that style of therapy that'll be really helpful. And the first is what we call, honestly, even just mindfulness. One of the first pillars of DBT is mindfulness, being able to recognize when we're feeling overwhelmed, because victimizing usually comes out when we feel like we're always the victim. We usually are hypersensitive to any slight that's happened by someone else, and we can find ourselves getting overwhelmed by that feeling very, very quickly. And so by being able to manage and recognize when we're feeling overwhelmed and then do some self-care, use some of those resources that we've been talking about. The sooner we can do that, the better we will feel and the less likely we will be to always feel like we're the victim. And along with DBT, and I should do more videos about DBT. I was doing them for a while and then it kind of fell off. There's just so much content to do. But another is like emotion regulation. So taking care of our basic needs. I talk about this all the time. There's a couple of acronyms in DBT like that they use. It's HALT or ABCs, please. What those pretty much stand for is, am I taking care of my physical health? Am I eating? Am I showering? Am I drinking enough water? Am I managing my emotional feeling? Like, have I seen people and felt connected? Like, what am I doing, right? Taking care of that so that we lower our vulnerability to being hurt and feeling victimized again. I don't know if that makes sense, you guys, but that's kind of where that's at. And so if we're trying to practice and prevent ourselves from victimizing, being self-victimizing all the time, we're going to have to pay attention to that self-talk, what we're telling ourselves about situations. We need to fact check, and thoughts aren't facts, feelings aren't facts. What happened? What took place? What did the person say? We really have to dig into that. And then we have to have some safe outlets to help us kind of soothe. That could be the shaking it out. That could be connecting with a friend who always seems to get us. That could be that tongue like ooh thing. A lot of different things that we could do. So yeah, but DBT, long-term DBT will just save you. Oh, hey, TK, love you guys too. Whoop, whoop. Okay, Sarah says, hi, Kati, can dissociation episodes become more intense or heightened when starting therapy for the first time? Heightened. So unfortunately, because dissociation, if any of you don't know what dissociation is, it's essentially our brain pulling the ripcord. It's like, this is too overwhelming for my system. I don't know how to process it. I'm out of here. And it pulls our brain, like we space out. We can feel like, they call it depersonalization, like removed from self. Like it's like almost like we're watching ourselves in a movie or something, or derealization when we're removed from environment. So it can be like everything's kind of in a fog or slow moving. People can have a combination of both of those things. But that's what dissociation is. And when our system's overwhelmed, could be trauma-based, could be anxiety-based, could be a lot of reasons. But when we dissociate, it's because it's too much. And so, of course, when we start therapy for the first time, I talked about how hard it is to open up and how strange it is to share things we've never shared with people before. Then we get overwhelmed. So we dissociate. But just stick with it. Let your therapist know that you dissociate. There's a lot of grounding techniques that they can do with you, like counting colors. They can have you keep a fidget toy or silly putty, or even like a chapstick. Like I have this huge Palmer's chapstick that I love. Keep that in your hand. There are things that they can have you do. You feel your butt into the seat. You feel your feet on the ground. Like we can do some things to help you stay present. But let them know that it happens, and know that it does get better, and it will the episodes will become less intense. Thanks, Henry, for the thumbs up. And thanks, JT and Eugene. Hey, you. I love those things. And Elizabeth. Yay. Hey. Social Network says, if there are things I'm not allowed to talk about in therapy, should I use crisis text line because that's my safe haven and I can say anything taboo too? That's fine. But the thing about therapy is if we can... it's best to tell your therapist if you feel like it's safe for you to, because the thing about therapy is if we don't, they only know what we tell them and they can only help us with what we share. So if we don't share everything, then they won't be able to help us fully. Does that make sense? It's like, I can only help you with what I know you need to work on or what you've told me is an issue. Sure, there can be things that I will realize as we work together, but there are going to be things that I just am not aware of. And if you don't tell me, then I can't help. And so really, I just want you to know that it's uncomfortable at first, and you should be allowed to talk about everything in therapy so that you can get the support you need. Yeah, those are my thoughts. Hey, Katie K. She says, how do you deal with nerves before therapy? Is it normal? Should I be nervous before sessions? Nerves are normal. I think because therapy is so weird, right? Such a strange situation, such a strange relationship. So it's very normal to feel kind of nervous going. However, I do believe, and you guys let me know in the chat if you disagree, I do believe it should subside over time. Like as we've seen our therapist for like 6 months, maybe a year, that anxiety or that worry or stress about going into session should get less and less because we kind of know what to expect. We already have done it enough that it's like, personally, when I go to therapy, I'm like looking forward to it and it's like a release because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited to talk to her about insert thing, right? That argument I had with so-and-so, or this issues that I'm having, or like just having a tough time and I just want to cry, like whatever it is, then I go and I do it and I'm like, it just feels better. It's like a release. So yes, it's normal to be a little bit nervous. Even if it doesn't go away for all of you, that's fine, but I think that the constantly having nerves before therapy maybe could mean it's not the best fit. But I would also just encourage you, if it isn't going away, bring it up with your therapist. Say, I usually feel nervous before therapy. Why? I don't know why that is. And then be curious about it. You can journal about it. You can talk with your therapist about it, and all that stuff. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Tatanka says, what indications are there that would tell you a patient should go inpatient? If they're not doing better. So something, it's not that we always have to improve, because we don't. Because life is hard, and we can, especially right now, a lot of my patients are backsliding, and that doesn't mean that they need inpatient or a higher level of care. It just means 2020/2021 fucking sucks, and it's anxiety producing, and it's stressful. So the truth about it. Oh, Sean has to jump on a phone call. Yep. Let all the moderators, you can take over. But anyways, if we're like getting worse, because I see a lot of eating disorder patients, as you guys know, and people who struggle with self-injury. And so if I find their symptoms getting worse and worse and worse, no matter what we do, then I would start considering inpatient. Or if they're constantly wanting to check in between sessions, like a lot. During emergency situations, meaning, let's say we had a death in the family, or we lost our job, something stressful happened, then it's okay for you to need like a week of extra texts or calls or check-ins or something like that. That happens. That's very normal. But if we find that like is the case more often than not, did you guys hear Sean sneeze? Sneeze heard around the world. The loudest sneezes of all time. Then anyways, he's still there. That's so funny. But anyways, that would mean that you'd need more care. So if symptoms start getting worse, yes, people did. There's Iris BB Boo Boo. Best username ever. Okay. And yeah, Sly Koopa eats chicken. So funny, you guys. Okay. So, symptoms get worse, needing more check-ins. If you're already increasing your sessions and we're still not getting worse, those are things that we would do. Any of that would mean that we need a higher level of care. And I would just start talking to my patient about it to see what they thought and what their, what they think they could do, what's available to them, what can we look into. And a therapist should not drop you if you can't get into a treatment center right away. They should stay with you until you transition over. Now, I will throw in that if we are like not willing to go inpatient and we're still getting worse, as a therapist in the outpatient basis, it can be unethical for us to keep seeing you because we're not giving you the level of care that you need. You need more care. And so we can terminate. Again, it doesn't happen like one day we're like, okay, we're not going to see you again. It's more like you need to get more care. We're not doing well together. This isn't getting better. And I'm here for you, but we need to get you more support. And if not, I can't keep seeing it, which I know seems ass backwards, but it's more like we can't support someone getting worse. It's like, then we're on the hook for that. And we could lose our license. So, which I know seems weird, but it's just the system. Okay. Welcome, Laura and Jessica, new members. Yay, yay. Oh, TK says at the very end, let us know how you're doing. I will. Oh, and thank you, Winter Gem and Rochelle or Rachel, I'm not sure. Welcome to our group. I hope you enjoy the journal prompts. There's Ashley. That's so cute. Your little avatar is super cute. Okay, the Septic Actress says, how does one cope from PPD or PPA? What's PPA? Sorry. PPA. What is that? Can you guys let me know? Because I know PPD is post, sorry, I'm reading the comments here. Trying to look it up to see. But PPD is like a really intense PMS, essentially. Or postpartum depression. Not PMDD, sorry. Postpartum anxiety. Thank you, Keely. You're the best. Super helpful. Okay, sorry. I haven't had kids, so all the PP whatevers, I was just like, you guys are super helpful. Okay, and sorry, Septic Actress. We'll get it together. Okay, so postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. First of all, Sean and I are working on a hormone series, and I was reading about the hormones involved in pregnancy, and it's no wonder so many women struggle with this after having a baby, because the way that our body increases some hormones to hold on to the egg and be able to, keep it for 9 months. And then the speed with which those hormones drop affects our mood a lot. And progesterone, which is what helps us keep a baby. And you'll notice, if anybody knows, like the way they can tell if you're pregnant, is it, or they check even, is like, are your progesterone levels still high enough? That progesterone makes us feel good. It helps us produce serotonin. That's why a lot of women, not all, but a lot of women be like, I feel so good when I'm pregnant. So yeah, makes sense. But then when we have the baby, whoom, those things drop. And so the truth is, honestly, my best advice, please see someone, talk to someone. And there are so many support groups for this. I've seen them on Facebook. I know that your OBGYN can refer you to some. Please speak up and talk to your friends and everything, because the one thing I know, again, I'm not a mother, I haven't had children, but a lot of my girlfriends who have had either postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety have told me that they just feel really alone. And then there's these thoughts of like, I'm a bad mom, I should never have had kids. And there's all this like self-doubt. Talk to somebody, get treatment. There are medications if you need it that will not harm your baby. You have to talk to a doctor, get all the information, because I'm not a medical doctor. But you can, like, it does get better and we will come out of it. It's okay to ask for help. And I find for even my friends, my close friends who've had, one of my friends had the anxiety, postpartum anxiety, but most have had postpartum depression. It takes about a year. But if we get some help, we can maybe shorten that time and start feeling better. And not to mention, like, we're sleep deprived, give yourself a minute, show yourself some compassion and get some support. So yeah. And Ben B says, I'm a transgender pregnant man. Should I see an OBGYN? Yes, of course. Of course. Whatever specialist can help you take care of you and your baby. But yeah, septic gastritis, get help. It gets better. And Elizabeth, yay, welcome. Thanks, Uki Daniel. And Monica says, I had an amazing therapist for 3 years until a year ago. I've met with 5 new therapists since then, but none of them click. It's made me sad, and I haven't met one as helpful as him. Is this normal? It's very normal. What I would encourage you to, and yes, TK, with the right help, it does get better. I would encourage you to write down some of the traits and reasons that you like that therapist so much. Let's figure out what it is, because the more we know, maybe it was because they were older. Maybe it's because they were younger. Maybe it's because it was a guy. Maybe because it was a girl. Maybe because they looked this way. Maybe because they dressed that way. Maybe because they talked to me in this certain way, or their office felt a certain way. Let's get specific. What was it about this therapist that we felt so connected to them? Is it in the way that they talked with it? Write it down and think about it, because this will help us better select people in the future. And it's very normal for it to take us 3-5 trials before we find someone that we like. Because I've even had therapists, like I saw this guy therapist, no offense to guy therapists, but it wasn't for me. And I'd only seen female before then. But my last therapist, Rebecca, had retired, and I forget this guy's name. And he was fine. But I just didn't like, it did not work. And from the beginning, I was like, it's not going to work. And this is not the time to be PC about it. You don't want to see a certain type of person. You don't want to see a certain type of person. Like, I've heard from a lot of my friends that they want someone who at least gets them. Like, they want them to be a mother, or they want them to be, the same ethnicity as them, or the same background. It's okay. We want to feel heard and understood. And so just figuring out what that is, will really, could really, really help you find someone good in the future. And again, not time to be PC. We're just trying to find someone who's a good fit. So yeah. Okay. And it's very normal, Monica. When we have that connection with a therapist, it can be really hard to move past it and think that we're going to find someone who's good. It's going to be really hard. Okay. Melissa says, I feel like you've talked about this, but what does dissociation look like from the therapist's point of view? Thanks, Katie. Hey, Melissa. I always chat with you in the comments, so it's good to see you. Honestly, dissociation usually looks like spacing out, but unlike spacing out, if I'm like, and then somebody's like, Katie, and then I'm like, oh yeah, hey, even if I say my patient's name over and over, the spacing out doesn't stop, and the eyes don't freeze. Usually, it's usually an inability to get even close to where I am. Their eyes will dart around the room, but always avoiding me in like a bubble. Usually no movement in the body, kind of like frozen. But that's in session. Again, like dissociation can happen and we're moving about and walking down the street. So it's not that we have to freeze, but I will notice a shift where eye contact becomes more difficult and speech becomes more difficult. And that's just kind of how I've noticed it in my patients. And you get to know people better. Again, like as you see someone more and more, they'll get to know your signs and symptoms and better be able to help you. So yeah, I hope that kind of helps and makes sense, because everybody's a little bit different, but the sooner I can help my patients, pull them out of it or offer some grounding techniques or change the subject. Sometimes I change a subject to something that I know they love talking about. Like one of my patients struggled so much with dissociation, but she loved her dogs. And so I'd be like, okay, so tell me about Scout. Tell me about, I'd mentioned her dogs and you tell me about them. What are they doing? And that would like pull her out. Doesn't always work for everybody, but the more, Jackie, yes, I think this will be saved on my channel. I'll do my best to figure it out. Again, I don't do this very often. I probably should live stream more, but I'm a busy lady. And so I'll figure it out. I plan on it. Okay. And I won't X out. I'll make sure we figure this out. We'll probably have to have Sean help me to be TBH. Okay. Yes, with the right help. Oh, of course, Elizabeth. I'm so glad that I can be a resource. And welcome, Glenn, to the journal prompts. How come I can't scroll down any farther? Do I need to it says excellent connection, whatever that means, for whatever that's worth. Let me click on this again and then see if I can get it to scroll farther. Are we all done? Am I caught up? Yes, amazing. I am caught up. Yay. Okay, let's get into, and hi, Emily. Okay, it's not showing me any of that, but let me see. Okay, any advice for feeling lonely during COVID-19? Honestly, I've been struggling myself. As you guys have seen, if you follow my channel closely, I've cried on video twice this year, which is not my style. Because Sean and I haven't seen, we've seen a few people. We have a few select friends that we've seen. There's 3 couples that we've seen. And then I've seen my friend Christina P, and that's it. So it's 7 people over a year. That's all I've seen. Something that we are doing right now. Oh, Tatanka, welcome to the weekly journal prompts. Okay, few things. First, FaceTimes and distance walks have saved my life. I know some of you live in cold climates. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm in Los Angeles. It's been rainy and cold, but I still go walking with my friends at a distance and we wear masks, and I feel pretty good about that. Okay. That's one way we've gotten connected with people. Another is, because everybody hates Zoom and FaceTime. I mean, they work, but we are quarantining and getting tested. And then we're going to drive up to where my family is. And a lot of people created the pods. And I would encourage those of you who are having a tough time, if you live alone or if you're stuck at home with family that's not supportive, have a couple friends that are your pod. We can be safe and get together. We need connection more now than ever. How much would we all give for just a nice long hug? Maybe if we'd like physical touch. I know some of us are not into that, but man, that would just feel so good, right? So finding ways to connect with people, whether it's, even if it is through Zoom, FaceTime, texting, stuff like that. But if you can get in person, if you can quarantine or get tested, if you have the luxury, like I do, of not having to work away from home for the time being, do that and have your safe pod. It's okay to a lot of people, we're even trying to figure out, because Sean's family's in Canada. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, well, if we get tested and then maybe we'll fly over there because they're in Montreal on the other side. I'm maybe we'll quarantine, maybe we'll rent a house so everybody can get together. We'll quarantine and get tested. You work it out. Logistically, you work it out for you. But the online groups that are supportive, like I've been talking about, my Facebook group is supportive. We also have a great group on Patreon where we live stream and chitty chat with each other and do hangouts and stuff like that. That's all great. But if we can quarantine or get tested and be safe, be responsible, I really think that we can find connection and can get together with people. And I know it's hard. I'm in it with you. Doing the body shake, the full shakeout has really been life-changing for me. Also just trying to do some kind of exercise, even if I just stretch for 10 minutes. That's been helpful to me. And then just making sure that I'm eating and drinking water. I know that sounds bad, but it's sometimes I just want, at the beginning of quarantine, I was not taking care of myself in the way that I should. Brownies are not a lunch item, Katie. So, we do all these things and there's no judgments. It's just what you gonna do? Okay. Oh, I'm getting the questions, Lillian, from the little boxes. Like Eugene just asked a question. Do you see those colored boxes if you scroll up through the chat? They're called super chat. Eugene says, any tips for parentified children and moving out? Whew, yeah. I have a video about being the parentified child. Check it out. It's actually funny. This mommy blog just posted my video about, because they were talking about parentified children and how to be a better mother so that doesn't happen. And I was like, cool, people talking about it. But being a parentified child means, if you don't know, it means that we take the role of the parent, and because the parent doesn't take that role. So that means, that could mean that we make sure all of our siblings get up and in time for school and get them ready when we're like 12. Or even younger sometimes. Or our parent overshares emotional stuff, like things that they should be sharing with another adult, they're sharing with their child. Very inappropriate, and can lead to us not being able to be a child. And so when it comes to moving out and being the parentified child, the number one advice that I have for you is getting some therapy support, even if it's just through crisis text line. I know they're not therapists, but they're trained crisis counselors. Getting some support as we navigate placing boundaries. So when we're parentified children, we feel responsible for our parents, which is just ass backwards. It's not how it's supposed to be. And so understanding where those boundaries should lie, maybe grieving the childhood that we didn't get to have. Are there things? I had this patient years ago, years ago, who just never got to like go to Disneyland, was an example, but there were other things too, because they were too busy like taking care of their siblings, because they had 4 siblings, big family. And so part of our homework was like, I want you to go to Disneyland and go on all the rides you want, buy all the food that you want, the churros or the Dole Whip, and I want you to get that sweatshirt. Be a kid, get the Mickey ears, do the thing. And it can feel silly. Those of us who are parentified children have a really tough time cutting loose and being goofy. But I think we can all benefit from a little bit of childlike wonder right now. And so anyways, part of that healing will happen in therapy, but the number one will be boundaries for you. Okay, last question, you guys, then we'll all, we'll chitty chat a little bit, because Tanner's question just came in, and I think that's the last one. Yes, I got through them all. Yay! Okay, so we learned something. If I let you guys know ahead of time, then we can do it properly. Okay, Tanner says, hey, Kati, any tips on accepting a diagnosis? Ooh, yeah. I just got diagnosed with PTSD and I'm having a hard time accepting it. Thanks for all you do. Of course, Tanner. Great question. First of all, feel free to challenge that diagnosis, read about it, ask about the symptoms, write them down, and see if they align with you. Because getting a diagnosis should feel like, even though labeling can suck and it can be hard, it should feel like we're participating in it in some respects, if that makes sense. We should feel like we get to understand. We call it in the therapy world psychoeducation. Like, you get to learn about what you're struggling with. And we should feel like we're learning and participating in that diagnostic process. And if it doesn't, feel free to ask questions, feel free to challenge, feel free to do all those things. I have had patients all the time struggle with that and ask, I don't think I have this, or patients who come in from another, like seeing a psychiatrist or something, and then they're like, my psychiatrist says I have bipolar disorder. I don't think so. And I'm like, okay, well, tell me about it, and I take notes, and we read through the diagnostic criteria. I talk about how bipolar can feel to people, what other people have told me. And, we go back and forth. So part of that, understanding it, learning about it, knowing the symptoms, can help us. It can help us feel either we agree and we're like, yeah, or we disagree and here's why. And maybe it's something different. So there's that part of it. Then the second, I think, is just part of the self-talk about diagnoses. So letting yourself know that diagnosis isn't who you are or what you're about. It's just something that you're working on. We all have a mental health. I believe we all have had a mental illness at some point in our lives, whether it's a depressive episode or anxiety symptoms. We've all had it, or postpartum depression for a lot of my mommies out there. There can be a lot of things, right? So recognizing that it's not who you are, it's just something that you're going to work on. And I always like to have my patients compare it to, like, well, if you were told that you had strep throat or the flu, would you judge yourself because of that? Because a lot of times we have judgments around, especially PTSD, being traumatized. Truly, 99.9% of the time when we are traumatized, we had nothing to do with it. Like, something happened to us. So understanding that and separating that out can sometimes just help us feel a little bit better. And just give yourself time also, But don't be afraid to ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. Make sure that it is the right diagnosis, okay? Oh, thanks, Annie Kate. And okay, final one, Brooke. No more questions, you guys. I have to end. I have to film some stuff. Okay. And also I'm taking pictures. Do you guys, the second round of pillows are coming soon. I often feel like I'm not struggling enough to need help. I start therapy on Friday and my thoughts tell me I don't deserve help. Any advice? Brooke, we all deserve help. We don't have to be feeling terrible to get assistance and to go to therapy. I go to therapy when I find myself being more tearful watching cartoons or commercials, TV shows, just wanting to cry randomly or feeling a little overwhelmed. I go back into therapy then. Nobody says we have to reach a certain level. How do we even figure out what that level is? And trust me, I know our brain will tell us it's never enough. Everyone deserves help. Everyone deserves to have someone to talk to get some advice. You are worthy of it. You are deserving of care. Keep telling yourself that and know that it is very normal to have those concerns and those worries, but you deserve it. Your therapist is going to be great. Hopefully you find a connection. You like them. It feels good. Yeah, you got this. It gets better. Thank you guys for hanging out. And as for how I'm doing fine. It's been rainy here, and Sean and I had to work over the weekend because we were trying to get the hormone series, the second video, which is about like hormones and mood, and you get to see me getting micro needling, which I find fascinating because I didn't get to see it. So, okay, yeah, Annie Kate says the crisis text line and Trevor project for people in the chat who are in crisis right now. And please plug those in your AKA ask. Yes, I talk about the crisis text line throughout the live stream, but also the Trevor project is great if you are having a hard time. They have chat. You can call and talk to someone 24/7. I give money to the Trevor project every year. I love them. Great resource, wonderful people, great organization, especially for, it's primarily for LGBTQ plus youth, but they're there, so you can reach out. Yeah, I'm doing good. So if you guys don't know, we launched fluffy pillows. They're like anxiety pillows. They have like a pouch in the front so you can hold them close to your body. You can also put in weighted pillow inserts so that it's heavier. I know a lot of you like the heavy things. But anyways, we did the white ones in like very end of November, early December. And I know some of you in the UK and other parts of Europe haven't received yours yet. The USPS said it could take 2 months to get things to Europe, and I don't have tracking for European things, and I'm sorry, but everybody in the States has received those, and those in Canada have been telling me as of last week, 3 of you received yours, so they're making their way. And yes, you can order them from Europe, but this time I'm hoping, because we're going to offer more shipping options, we're doing a different shipping system so that it will automatically update you with tracking. We're just new to this, and I apologize for any stress this caused anybody if they were really worried. And we will make sure that everybody gets their pillowcases. But the pillow covers, now we have a black version and also a smaller one. So spoilers. I put it on Patreon the other day in my lens. I showed you guys that it arrived and they're sitting over there. So we have to take pictures of that. I have to film some stuff for the hormone series that will go live on Monday. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful week. This was really great. It was great to see you. It was great to chat. Thank you for all your questions. I hope you guys like the journal prompts and the emo jams. Please tag me if you're using them. Just FYI, since Twitter is just a dumpster fire of hate and destruction, I'm not really on Twitter as much anymore. So I'm sorry if I miss a message. Tag me on Instagram or on TikTok or something like that. Even in the comments on a video, those are the places I hang out with or hang out in with. Jeez. Have a wonderful week. I will see you guys soon. Oh, Iris, you're the best. You guys are all the best. I was telling the Patreon patrons on, was it last Friday, last Thursday? I don't know. Time's an illusion. But how much you all just like make my day. It's really great to connect with all of you. It's great to be able to answer some questions, hopefully help you guys in some way. Thank you for all your support over the years. Oh yeah. Oh, good, Mighty Mermaid. I'm glad you guys like the podcast and everything. Oh, and Elizabeth says, do I plan live streams in advance? Yes. Yes, usually. So on Patreon, 100%, because I get your questions and everything. And then when it came to this, I posted it on my YouTube community tab, to YouTube stories and to Instagram stories. And I'm going to be honest, Instagram stories is it's the easiest way for me to disseminate information. So if you're wanting to keep up on things, just check that. I don't post a shit ton of stories, you guys. It's not one of those people where you open it up and there's like 5,000 little dots and you're like, oh my God. No, it's like maybe 10 things, maybe. So yeah. Okay. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Spread some love online today. I think everybody can use it. Everybody needs it. And I will see you guys soon. Okay. Bye.